Welcome back. I'm the IT kid. Today, I'm going to be covering how to get into Python as a language. So I already have a Python guide on the channel, but straight up, I hate it. It's kind of bad. So I'm going to revamp the whole thing and I'm going to continue from here. So the way I kind of want to do it is today we'll be in Microsoft Paint and I'll be explaining the basic mechanics of Python, why you should use it, why it's popular, how it'll help you, etc., etc. And next week we'll actually go into some code, but for today we're just like mechanics, ideas, concepts. So Python is very versatile, very beginner friendly, and if you want to code like seriously and genuinely, I recommend that you start with Python. Python is a high level, and don't let that scare you. It's a high level general purpose programming language. And even though it's considered high level, it's because there's a lot of things you can do with it, but it's not necessarily complicated. Unlike some programming languages where you need a lot of complex syntax, like Java, where it overcomplicates syntax in some areas, Python is essentially the English language. Like, if you start learning how to code, and we'll cover this in coming videos, you'll see that it genuinely feels like you're just writing in English. And it's it's a great language. Like, I don't know what else to tell y'all, but uh, I'll go over some of the notes that we have for today's video. Created in the 80s. It's been 45 years since then. Very popular language. M- It's one of the most used in the application process. Like if you want to find an actual job, Python is going to be the one that you go to. And so there are a couple of reasons why Python is very popular. So again, like we covered, it's very easy to learn, very readable. The syntax is clean, straightforward. It makes it one of the easiest programming languages to pick up, and I promise that is true. Like I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything. I'm still a college student, but I know a couple of programming languages. Python has by far been the easiest. It's very versatile. Python can be used for web development, data science, AI, automation, game development, cybersecurity, etc., etc. Like there's so much you can do. You have well, I'll stop myself there before I like rant. But there's a lot of stuff you can do, and a lot of stuff which I can say to you. But if you don't know Python yet, it won't really mean anything. Python is very accessible because of its huge community and resources. Like it probably has the hugest community in the world. Like if you're looking for a forum or you're looking for a bunch of people that know Python, it's going to be very easy to find other people like that. And the most important reason is that it's used by the top companies. So like Google, Netflix, Insta, NASA, they use it. So if you want to get a job, you should use it. And so, okay, if you're learning to code, Python is the best place to start. We've covered that. It's beginner friendly. It opens the door to many exciting career opportunities in tech. And whenever you want to build websites, automate tasks, analyze data, or create AI powered applications, Python does all of it. So, you're getting a lot. You're getting, and like, I'm Python's number one hype man. Like, I'm over here gassing it up like crazy, but it really is true. There's so many things you can do with Python. So, this will be a very brief video, but before we end it, I'm gonna cover some of the concepts. I'm gonna cover how Python works, and then I'm gonna talk about what we'll be doing next week or in the next video. So Python is an interpreted language. So unlike languages that need to be compiled before running, Python is interpreted. So excuse the very terrible handwriting. So you can write code and run it immediately without needing extra steps, which is basically what this means. Oh my goodness, so bad. But yeah, essentially you write the code, you run it in the console, it's very easy. I know there are things that can complicate it, like the application that you're using. If you're using Jupyter Notebook, you have to run each cell individually. But if you're using a lot of Python, just And if you're using a lot of applications, a lot of other applications like Spider related to Python, you literally click the run button, it'll run the entire code all at once. So it depends on what you want to do. And I guess uh the main thing to cover would be that indentation matters. I know I said Java is annoying in a lot of ways, and it can be, but indentation isn't as big of a problem in Java as it is in Python. Like you need very specific indentation. You need very specific indentation, and if anything is indented wrong, then it messes up the code. You can't run it. It's bad. It's terrible. So for loops, while loops, variable declarations, everything needs to be aligned properly. You need to have everything lined up in the correct order, and we'll cover it. We'll cover indentation. We'll cover etiquette, and that'll be in one of the next couple of videos. And the last basic thing on how Python works is that it's dynamically typed. So you have to define the type of data that you're working on, but not in Python. In a lot of languages, you're defining the type of data that you're working on, but in Python, it figures it out for you. So I guess the best way to explain would be if you assign a variable, like if you say number is equal to 2.0, then Python will automatically figure out that you're using a double or a float, depends on what you want to call it, a decimal. Python inherently knows that that value is a double and it saves it as a double. In some languages, you'll have to declare, although it's not very common. I haven't seen it in anything that I've used, but I know in some languages you do have to declare the data type of the value that you're inputting. And the last thing we'll be covering is basic, oh, that is still the eraser, my fault. Basic concepts. So the fundamentals in Python, you'll get things like integers, you know, your typical 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get floating numbers, or like I said, doubles, depends on what you want to call it. Kind of melts together. Decimals like 3.14, the number for pi, or 0.5. That's a float. The next data type is a string. And if you heard anything about coding, you kind of already get these concepts, but a string will be anything written inside a pair of quotes. And in Python, it doesn't matter if it's single quotes or double quotes, it becomes a string. In some languages, the quotation has to be specific. For characters, I believe it's single quotes in other languages, but in Java or Python, it is always a string, double quote, single quote, as long as there is words inside of quotation marks. So here we'll just say hello. And the last data type we'll be covering is Booleans. And Booleans are very simple. It basically just means, is this thing true or false? A Boolean is true or false. And this will be the next video. We'll be covering data types, how to assign data types to a variable, how to use them, what kind of statements you might want to use for them. But that seems like a pretty good introduction for now. And so now I gave you a pretty solid introduction to Python. I know I rambled and like maybe it might not have been as focused as it could have been, but I'll definitely work on that for the next one. But in the next video, we'll start coding. We'll dive into writing your first Python program, and we'll we'll cover a lot of content. Like this, I feel like will be a very long running series because even I'm not like a master at Python, but as I'm learning, I will be making videos to explain to you, to teach you, so that you don't have to go to college, be in debt in order to learn. I mean, there's a lot of resources online, and I'm just here to point that out to you and to help explain it to you in as simple way as I can. So, if you did like the video, you know, leave a thumbs up, subscribe, come back for more. We'll be having a lot more videos covering how to do Python, and maybe in the future I'll teach Java, C++, Luau. It all depends, but if if people like this one, then I definitely will see myself doing other languages. But that's all for now. Thank you, and check out the other videos on the channel. Goodbye.